We should be live.
Hey everybody, and welcome to Between the Distance. I am Kat,
And I'm Connor.
and we're just gonna talk about us for the first time. Really, like our first episode, first podcast. That's kind
I
of
have
cool.
no idea what to start though.
Well, I'm the more talkative one than you are, so
That's very
I
true.
feel like I'm gonna be the one keeping this conversation going.
Well, I'll participate.
Well, I hope so, because it's gonna be really awkward if I'm sitting
Mm,
here talking to myself for the first hour. So,
it's very true.
yeah. So, let's talk about our story. That's like the title of our first podcast.
Okay.
So, I feel like I've posted it so much on Facebook that it's not really like a big deal.
Mm,
Like people, I feel like people might already know the story, but we should be able to just sit and tell it, I guess.
yeah.
So, who
So
wants to go
so it
first? Do you
all
want to go first?
starts on a strange website called Habbo Hotel.
That's because you you and your friend were trolling the American servers.
Well,
Yeah.
I didn't even know the difference between .com and .co.uk websites back then.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I didn't know the difference either. I didn't even know there was anything other than .com.
Well, I'd seen .co.uk websites, but I almost thought it was like an optional thing.
Yeah.
Like it didn't actually take you to a whole different website. I thought it was something to do with like language settings.
Right.
Yeah, like I think back then and maybe even now when you go to Google and go to .com in the UK, it tries to take you to .co.uk. So again, I kind of just thought it was like some automatic thing.
Right. We were babies, though.
Yeah,
We were 14.
yeah.
Yeah. So, we met each other when we were 14. We're only 16 days apart.
Is it? I
It's
can't do
16, yeah.
maths.
16 days. You're just a little bit older.
Oh yeah. I forget how many days are in March.
Yeah. You're only 16 days older. It's kind of scary.
How's that scary?
Well, like, I don't think I don't think I've ever really been in a relationship with somebody that's that close in
Uh,
age. Like they've always been older or younger,
mm,
so it's like 16 days. So, but yeah, so we met each other on Habbo Hotel,
yep.
and yeah, we moved to MSN.
Yeah,
Remember when that
yeah.
existed? MSN Live.
MSN was fun.
That was fun. There was so much that you could do, but I felt like I spent most of the time on MSN, like on camera,
Mm,
talking to you while you typed back to me and I couldn't see you.
pretty much.
Like you could have been some 30-year-old man.
Well, I had sent you pictures. Several of
But
them were
they were
like
so
taken with the
dark.
webcam.
I couldn't tell.
It was dark on my bed. I had a
Yeah,
bunk bed.
could be some 30-year-old man. Creepy.
Nah.
Uh, yeah. And we spent most of our time talking on MSN. So that was cool. That's where I met most of your friends too, cause like,
That was what most of me and my school friends actually used to talk outside of school.
right.
Because it was like, I feel like MySpace never really took off here. Um,
I loved
Most
MySpace.
people in school went from like MSN, and then technically for a while that was Windows Live Messenger,
Right.
and then went straight to Facebook.
Right.
I do think, a few people had MySpace accounts, but they didn't really talk on MySpace. The only other thing people really talked on outside of school here was BlackBerry Messenger,
Right.
But obviously you had to have a BlackBerry,
I
and not many
remember when I
people
got a
did.
BlackBerry. Like
I've
my
never
mom
had
gave me her old one. It was great. But I didn't
one.
use BlackBerry Messenger. I didn't even really use Messenger. Like the only reason I had MSN was to talk to you. And my friends didn't really use Messenger. We didn't really talk through MySpace or anything like that. But
How did you
right at the
talk to your friends?
hmm,
Sorry, but how did you talk to your friends then?
school.
So outside of school, you just never spoke to them.
Well, outside of school, my mom or my grandpa would get me the little Nokia phones.
So you'd actually text.
Very little because then I would like lose minutes. Like we were
Alright.
minute based.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would like if it was like Hillary or Brittany, one of my friends like that, I could just quickly be like, "You want to hang out?" And then yeah,
Mm,
and then I would just go. So it
yeah.
would just like save me some minutes. Anyway,
See, with how things are sort of laid out in the UK, before MSN and having proper internet in the home, it was you just walk to your friend's house.
but like in
Like,
America, you can't just walk.
I know, because you get to like the end of your suburb and then you're on like, what you call it, the freeway.
Well, the good thing about when I was a kid is we lived on TSTC campus.
Mm,
So TSTC campus was a lot of like the place where you would see a lot of kids that went to school at my school.
right.
So that I could walk around and see people because it wasn't that far. But
Mm,
now, like from where my parents live, yeah, we had to drive.
right.
So, like the nearest thing to my parents' house is like a dollar store and a little corner store. So,
Mm,
and I wasn't really friends with a lot of people in the neighborhood. Like I had Destiny that lived down the street, but she was new to the school. She came later on in high school. We hung out a lot then, but
well,
anyway.
see, when I say like go to someone's house to see if like they're in, I'm talking about like primary school here.
Mhm.
So the ages of like 5 to 11. Um, most of the people you knew would probably live within the area because it's the kind of area where hardly anyone's parents had cars.
Right.
So they would enroll them in the local school, and that was one of the closest local schools, and it was surrounded by houses. You've seen where it used to be, and a lot of the houses there that aren't the brand new builds have been there since I was a kid.
Right.
So it was literally like the kids could have walked to school, but you're not allowed to walk to school on your own until like a certain age.
Right.
Um,
We
so
rode the
yeah,
bus. The things that
that'd
you
be fun.
guys don't have here is the bus, the school bus.
Yeah, it does look fun.
It's really fun when you sit in the back of the bus and you get like one of those really cool bus drivers that want to go over a bump at like 50 miles an hour. Just like,
Well, to be fair, we did go on buses for school trips, and it was always one of those things where like people would try and reserve the back seats.
hmm.
One person would sit at the back, and there's like 5 seats at the back, at least for kids that young and small.
Right.
So you'd have one person like, "Nah, my mates are coming along in a minute. This is mine already."
Anyway, don't you think we should get back to the story?
You said I was just talking, so
Well, yeah.
we kind of
It's nice to
just
have a nice like offshoot of the conversation, but
yeah.
so
So
we met
Habbo
when we were
Hotel.
14 and we're now 28.
Yeah.
And we have been engaged since last year and we get married at the end of the month.
Hmm. You say that like it's spooky or something. Rude.
It's not that it's spooky. It's not spooky. I guess just like haven't had that great of an experience with marriage.
Mm.
So, but I'm optimistic.
Optimistic. Okay.
Optimistic.
Okay.
But yeah, so um yeah, we dated from 14 to 16.
Hmm.
Had a little bit of a difference there. And then yeah, so here we are. We started dating again in January or February.
It's technically February. We started talking at the very end of January.
January. Yeah.
Yeah.
So started dating again February 2022. Um, and then the first time I came to the UK was May.
It's
Um,
May 11th, right?
yeah. Well, I think I got here on the 12th. I
Ah,
left
you
the
left on the
U.S.
11th.
Yeah, and then we
Okay.
had like this massive time jump,
We should probably clarify.
hours.
2022.
Yeah,
Because,
2022.
yeah.
And then um, first time I left was November 2022.
Hmm.
Came back
In
on
December on Christmas Day.
Christmas.
Yeah.
Well, I left on Christmas Eve, but
Yeah.
got here
Yeah.
on. Oh my God, that was the longest day of my life. I felt because everything was just going wrong.
And I'm
Like,
guessing it was super busy. With like
yeah.
people trying to travel
But
for the
also, we sat
holidays.
on that plane for like 5 hours
Oh yeah, that was
because
when
the
they were
plane.
doing the
Yeah.
repairs, wasn't it?
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
freaking terrifying when you're sitting on a plane, like completely trusting that this thing is gonna get you where you need to
Yeah.
go, and then they're like, we have to pull back into the gate for repairs, and just
There is a
hope that that
major
repair
fault,
worked.
but don't worry, the next time we take off it'll be fine.
That's terrifying. So we sat there at the gate for 5 hours before they finally like took off, and at the end of it you could tell the pilot was ready to go. He was just ready
Yeah.
because he was stuck on the plane too, waiting for repairs. He just comes over the intercom and he's just like, all right everybody, we're going, London is waiting. Because we flew from TFW to London, London to Manchester. So yeah, yeah, London is waiting, we are going by. Like, I think that was the quickest I had ever taken off on a runway. He was ready to go.
That sounds terrifying.
Oh yeah.
I'm still
Oh, and
very
then
scared of planes.
the first time that I came in and landed in Dublin and got detained.
Oh, yeah.
I got detained. Oh my god. They put me in this little glass box right next to passport control.
You said just everyone was walking past
Yes,
watching you.
so that everybody could look at me in like this naughty corner. Like, what are you trying to smuggle into Ireland? I'm like, I'm not. And I remember because he was about to take my phone. He told me that he was going to. So I had to like you were still asleep. I had to text your mom. And it was just like, wake him up. It's an emergency.
Yeah.
Because they were like, we need to call you, like call him and make sure that it's legit. You're not like some 40-year-old dude that lied to me, or like some really old chick that lied.
I don't know if it was that. I think it's that you, you didn't have much in your bank account at the time,
I did.
and they were concerned about how you were going to be supporting yourself because your return ticket was in like 6 months' time.
Yeah.
And obviously coming to work illegally is a big deal. So when he called me, he wasn't asking me like, oh, are you? Well, he asked me name, but he wasn't like, oh, are you the person that this person thinks you're saying? He was making sure that I knew who you were, and then they started asking me everything about what I do for work.
Yeah.
Like, oh, what you work as? What are your hours? How much do you earn? And stuff like that. Like super personal questions. Like, are you aware that she only has X amount in a bank account? And stuff like that. And I was like, well, yeah, because we just spent the whole bunch of money on a plane ticket. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
That was terrifying. Like sitting in a little glass box, not entirely sure what's gonna happen to me. I'm
yeah.
like I wasn't doing anything illegal, so I'm pretty sure the only thing they would have done is just put me on the next flight back home.
But
But
that was a terrifying prospect at the time,
yeah,
considering the amount of work that had gone into getting the like the passport and everything, and
yeah,
all the planning that we'd done and stuff like that.
yeah, because we planned that from like the end of February all the way up.
We started planning.
Yeah,
Sorry. We started
so
planning very quickly.
yeah. Well, like I just remember us like talking. We were friends, and then it kind of it progressed a little bit more, and then it was just like, okay, so when are you gonna come visit?
Yeah.
Because like when we were kids, we would talk about it all the time. We would talk about when I was gonna come visit, when I was gonna move or whatever. Like this unrealistic expectation for 18-year-olds. Like, because we were 16 and we were like, oh yeah, as soon as we turn 18, I'm gonna move
Yeah.
to the UK. Like, so
Money doesn't exist. Immigration control doesn't exist.
no, we were just
Visas don't
totally
exist.
oblivious to this
Yeah.
whole entire process.
Yeah.
That, like, I'm still so confused with some things.
It worked.
Yeah. I just
So,
like tossed it to the wind and was like, I hope.
yeah.
Like, because they tell you that everything you need to know is on the UK government website, and you go and look, and it's just like they're tiptoeing around the yellow brick road here, like not
Well,
saying this is the way to Oz.
I
Like,
feel like there's such a huge disparity because for some of the things you need, it's like here's three sentences on a web page. Interpret this as you like.
yeah,
And then for some things that should be simple, it's like here's a 40-page document. Read every index and
yeah.
like appendix attached to it.
And then at that
And
point,
it costs.
still take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah, but then and that's the worst thing, that the 40-page doesn't give you any more answers than the three sentences.
Right.
It's total gibberish.
It's just crazy.
Yeah.
And it was so disheartening when we did the visa for this one because, like, we ran into a roadblock. Like, with the whole, we need to get a refund kind of
Oh
thing.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, we needed to get a refund, and it felt like it took forever.
Mm.
So by the
They said
time
it
we
could have
got the
been 28
refund,
working days, didn't they?
huh?
They said 28 working days,
Yeah,
didn't they? It
28
didn't end
working
up
days.
being that long.
It ended up being 3 weeks.
Yeah.
But
But even
by
then,
the
that's only 15
time
working days.
that
So,
we got it back, we could have already gotten the visa, but that was because
yeah.
they weren't clear on what you needed to select, like when it came to what you wanted to do and where you wanted to go with VFS Global, like with the
Yeah, the application centres.
yeah
Yeah. Like where the priority was available. Well, technically it was available at both, but to get the priority from like the premium centres, you couldn't just pay for priority. You had to pay for some whole support package,
yeah
which was
where they
crazy.
did like all of the scanning of the documents for you, like um you know any other advice.
Yeah.
It was just a BS like list.
They do make it very difficult.
Yeah, because it's very simple for me to sit down, go get a printer, and know what I need to put in that package.
Yeah.
It's the fact of like what like exactly what do you want from me.
Hmm.
I basically gave them my whole entire life in that package. Like
Yeah.
that package was thick just to ensure that it was everything that we needed.
It was literally like playing darts with a shotgun or something.
Yeah.
Like,
Ugh.
just pepper the board and they'll pick out the important bits for you.
Yeah. So I sent so many pictures. I sent Charlie's vaccination
Yeah.
card. I I sent my birth certificate. I had to send my divorce papers.
Hmm.
There was just so much in there.
Screenshots of text conversations.
Yeah.
Pictures we had taken together.
Yeah. It's the text conversations for me. Like I get that you want to make sure that our relationship is legitimate, but we had plenty of other documents to uphold that argument.
But also, you can just fabricate that.
Yeah. I could just send you some crappy, text message. If
Yeah.
it wasn't legitimate, I could just send you a text. Oh, I love you. Oh, I
Yeah.
love you too. And then like just crop that and then the rest of it be like, "Oh yeah, so I'm just coming over here to work and I really don't care."
Mm.
Like,
Well, I think what helped with, like, because I mostly selected the WhatsApp screenshots, didn't I? And what I tried to show, I didn't even approach it from like demonstrating a relationship. I approached it from proof we had made the plans.
yeah.
So the very first time we talked about you coming, the whole like, if I can get the passport, are we gonna do this?
Right.
Those messages were in there. Um, the messages about like you coming back and things like that, and when you left and things. So
I wanted it to like I got that part too of like how I wanted to put that part that, make that come across in the process.
mhm.
But I also wanted to establish like a genuine relationship. Like we got a dog. Like, people who don't like each other don't go and get a dog
Well,
together.
that's what I thought though, is that like the other evidence proved the relationship enough.
Yeah.
So what the WhatsApp messages proved were the timeline of the relationship. I don't know whose phone that was.
It was me.
Oh, okay.
I can hear you. My mom was telling me that you need to speak up a little bit. She can't hear you. You need to move this together.
It is right here.
You need to talk a little bit louder.
Okay. I don't talk very loud though. You know that.
At least she's giving us feedback.
Yeah.
So, I don't like checking my phone during a podcast, but
naturally I am soft-spoken.
Yeah.
It's like
if
I talk at any volume above this, I feel like I'm like forcing myself to project my voice.
Well, you need to for this, apparently.
I also have a very tired throat from speaking all day on the phone for work.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's the whole thing.
But, yeah, so that was... The visa process was just... I don't know. I feel like that was probably one of the worst experiences. Because it is nothing... Like, there is no big red arrow that says yellow brick road this way.
Yeah.
It's just like, this is what you need. We might be able to take this into account. Send it just in case. And cross your fingers. Because we did 2 visas. We did the visitor visa, which the visitor visa isn't that big of a deal as much as the fiancé visa is. But, yeah, even that was a little bit nerve-wracking. Because I was ready to come home. Like, I was ready to be home for Christmas. And then, we had already talked about getting a dog before then.
Yeah.
So, that was supposed to be our Christmas present to each other, was that we went and got a dog. And now we have a dog that drives me insane.
But he's adorable though.
He is. He's so cute. But when I look at him and he just will not stop. I'm just like, I see all these people on TikTok and on Facebook with like their cute little cuddly dogs. And I'm like, why can't my dog just lay on the couch with me and chill? But, it's the breed too. So
I think he's also just not fully used to the new living room.
Right.
Because when you were out recently and I had him on the bed, he actually, after like half an hour of being crazy,
right,
to put it diplomatically, he did actually settle and he was lying down and squeaking his toe. Like he remembers our bed.
Right.
But the living room is a totally new experience. I mean, obviously, I'm pretty sure he remembers your chair from the old house.
Yeah. He keeps trying to steal my chair.
Yeah.
I'm not fidgeting, I swear. I'm trying to figure out... Because I lose stuff in this chair. I lose everything in this chair.
Well, you gotta learn to share it. I'm expected to share mine.
I sit in your chair a lot during the day. I do.
I've noticed a couple of times. And you fell asleep on it recently.
I was tired.
Yeah.
They keep waking us up. So, I'm looking for my vape.
Why is it you sit on mine in the middle of the day rather than yours? Is it because Charlie's all up on that? Or...
No, because sometimes, like when I'm sitting in this chair and I want to get comfortable, like I am now, I have to sit on my hips. So I'll like kind of get up and then sit like on my hip. And after a while it hurts, and then I switch to the other side and end up sitting on this hip for too long. If I just try to sit down in this chair, it just feels weird because I've got like my leg, like my feet are hanging out, just so it just feels strange.
See, I had the whole sitting on the hip issue with the old couch.
Yeah.
It looked very nice, and it was big, but like, I don't think I'd have ever chosen that couch. That was quite clearly a you decision.
I liked that couch. I did. But, yeah, when we moved, it was just too big. It was just too big for the living room. There just wasn't enough room. So, I liked my L-shaped couch.
I really liked it visually,
It was
but
a nice color, but also,
I don't even just mean color-wise. I just mean like an L-shaped couch looks cool. It
yeah,
looks aesthetically pleasing,
yeah.
but
I swear, I'm just
I
trying to
am
get comfortable. That's what I
yeah.
mean. Is that I've been sitting on this hip for too long. I've been sitting on the hip for too long, and now, like,
I was uh I was very happy to see it go in favor of this.
well, now you get a recliner. So,
Finally, I've
yeah,
wanted a recliner like my whole life. I've just never had space for one.
yeah.
So,
So, what else do we need to talk about in our story?
mhm. So we covered Habbo. We covered talking again.
Right.
We spoke about Dublin. What we didn't touch on is the fact that they lied
Oh my god.
about how long you were allowed to stay in the country because, and again, you know this, you were there, but for the benefit of anyone watching, you transited through the Republic of Ireland, which is not part of the UK.
Yeah.
So that's a whole different border control, and with the tensions between the Republic of Ireland
Yep.
and Northern Ireland and the UK as a whole, this guy at border control lied. And was it 3 months he said, or four?
Yeah, they said that the Republic of Ireland could stamp my passport for 3 months to enter
Yeah,
the UK. That they do passport control for the UK, but they could only stamp it for 3 months.
yeah, they were only authorised to let you enter the UK for 3 months, and then technically you would be here illegally,
Yeah.
even though the UK allows you to stay for 6.
Yeah.
So then
With
we
that
planned
visa.
that entire Paris trip to get us out of the country and back in, and see the Eiffel Tower at the same time.
My god, Paris. Ugh.
And it was at the hottest time of the year, the hottest, it was in the UK at the time, it was the hottest ever day in the UK,
Yeah.
but we get one of those every year now. Global
But it
warming
was
has
the
made it to
hottest
the
day in
point.
Europe too.
Yeah, I know,
Yeah,
but
so they had made that clear that it was the hottest day in Europe.
it's been a major issue that like every single year now we get a new hottest day on record pretty much. I
Yeah.
think it was 41 degrees was the highest recorded
Mm.
temperature, and that's Celsius.
Yeah.
So I think with the conversion, you are pushing like 100 or more.
It was over.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's like 107 or something.
yeah, because it's not just when you go from Celsius to Fahrenheit, it's not just plus a flat number, it's also like multiplied or some silly stuff. Um, but yeah, and then on the to sort of gloss over the Paris trip, but we can't talk about it. It was just semi-uneventful aside from the Eiffel Tower because we could only really go for like a day and a half. But on the way back in, speaking to UK border control again, and then wondering why we had taken such a very short trip when they looked at our passports and we explained it to them, he told us that the guy in Ireland was lying.
Yeah. Because I remember going through passport control and we didn't get a stamp. We got a stamp in Paris,
Yeah.
entering and exiting. So
Hmm.
that was new. Um, but when we got into the UK, they didn't give us a stamp, which was weird either way because I had left the country, gone into another country, and
Hmm.
come back. So in my passport, you look at it and you're like, where did she go? Like,
Yeah.
you see her leave France, but where did she go? You
Yeah.
know? So I remember going through passport control, didn't get a stamp and everything. We made it out of the line, and I was like, wait, he didn't give us a stamp.
Yeah.
And so I had to turn around and go back up to him and be like, hey, am I supposed to get a stamp? Because, this is why this happened. And, we left the country, went to a totally different country,
Hmm.
and then came back. I figured we would get a new stamp. And he was just like, no, no, as long as you leave within 180 days of that original stamp that you got in Dublin, you're fine.
Yep. So like it's very important we get a stamp so that she isn't detained the next time she tries to come back.
The rules vary so much between countries. Like, because when I came into the UK, all the times that I come into the UK, I would get a stamp or well, if I went through the electronic line, I wouldn't get a stamp. You get an electric stamp, basically an electronic stamp.
Yeah.
So, if they scan your passport because they think you might be there illegally or whatever, it'll show that entry stamp in
Mhm.
there. But I did get the stamp in Dublin, but when I left the UK, I didn't get a stamp that I was leaving. And then when you get back into the US with a US passport, you don't get a stamp.
Of course. Yeah.
You know, they scan it like electronically to just say, they re-entered, like they entered, they're here.
Yeah.
So, it's not like you got on a plane and disappeared. They don't
Mm.
know where you are. So yeah, but I like the electronic system that comes in with the passports now because it makes it so much easier. And I don't like talking to random strangers. It's not that I'm like doing anything illegal when I enter the country.
But you not kind of find it sad that you'll never have a passport so full of stamps that you've got to get a new passport.
Well, if I go to France, I
Oh, just
will
go
just
back in and
list
out
the
of France
stamp.
over and over. Well, we already established you're not going back to Ireland, so you're not
Oh
going
no.
to get any of
At
those.
least not at least not the Republic of Ireland.
Well, you're
No.
not going to get a stamp going to Northern, because that is the UK.
Well, it depends if we, leave. Like
I don't think you would get an Irish stamp though. Like it would be a UK stamp. It would just say, the name of the
technically,
city.
I think technically you can still get a stamp. It just depends on where you go because I know that London and Manchester have electronic
Mm.
stamps. It is sad that I can't like keep my passport and be like, "Oh, I have all these stamps. It's great." But it makes it so much easier when you've traveled, you're tired, they're like you smell. I
Mm.
mean, like every time I get into an airplane, I feel like I stink.
Yeah.
Even though it's cool in an airplane, except for one, there was one time that I was dying in that, I swear.
I feel like
Um,
airports are quite humid though.
yeah, planes are humid, but they usually keep them still cool.
No, I mean
Yeah,
airports.
airport. Well, of course,
Yeah.
yeah, airports are humid. But, you're so tired, you're lugging around everything, you're sweaty, you just want to get where you're going, and having to stand there in passport control and freaking just lay your whole life out on the line of like, why are you here?
They're very nosy. Yeah.
Rather than just walking up to a little glass door. Like, it's literally like if you scanned your badge going into work or whatever, and
Yeah.
it's you lay it on the glass top. It scans it real quick, and the door's open. If there's a problem, yeah, the lights will light up red, and then passport control would just be like, come on, you know. I've never had that happen to me. I've never had it where I'm going to electronic, I scan it, and then it's red, and they're just like,
That kind of stuff would probably only ever happen if like you had overstayed previously and things like that. Which is becoming a very big issue with Europe, not the UK, as we are no longer part of Europe technically.
very sad
Um,
day.
yeah, but Europe now almost bitterly, because it's mostly directed at the UK being so close, but it applies to everyone, has new rules now about how long you're allowed to stay in a European country or the European Union as a whole within a certain period of time.
Yeah.
And I think it's something very ungenerous, like 30 days. And there have been people who have been to a European country from the UK, but again, also other
Yeah.
places, come back off holiday and didn't get stamped anywhere. And then the next time they've tried to enter that country, because the last stamp in their passport was them entering a European country, or that one specifically, like a year ago, and there was no evidence in the passport that they left or re entered a different country, they actually end up getting detained.
Mhm. That was always my biggest fear of like being detained, and it came true on the very first go around. Being
Yeah.
detained, And it is scary because when you're trying to sit there and talk to the passport control officer, they're very rude. Like, kind of,
Body language wise.
yeah, like, oh, I'm gonna flag you for this. I'm gonna be aggressive about it. I'm gonna be like, why are you here? And for one, I was in a totally and completely different country. I just flown 9 hours. We'd been planning this for so long. I was exhausted because I didn't sleep on the plane. I tried and I just couldn't do it. And here I am with like this very not like physically aggressive, but like you can like demeanor
Yeah.
aggressive passport control officer that's wanting to know my last story. And I'm like, if I say one thing wrong, this can all go south. So I'm like trying to figure out the best way to put this up. Just like, I have a boyfriend, long distance. We met when we were kids. You know, we're meeting for the first time. And then the big problem that I had with that was they were like, "Well, tell me about your boyfriend. What does he do for work?" So I told them, and they were like, "Oh, okay." And then was like, "How much does he make?" And I'm like, "I don't know. We've never discussed that because I didn't feel like that needed to be discussed at that
Yeah.
point in the relationship. Because like then it would just made me look like, well, how much money do you make? Like,
Yeah.
you know. So we hadn't discussed that, but we knew that it was a comfortable enough amount that we could be like sustained through the whole entire trip. So I was just like, I have no idea. We didn't talk about that kind of stuff. Well, why are you over here if you don't know how much he makes and he's supposed to be taking care of you this whole time? And I'm just like, good question.
Well, because it was effectively a long-term holiday. Yeah, in our minds, not legally, because we don't want to break the law by saying anything here. We were treating it as though you were living in the UK,
Yeah,
but the legal standpoint and how anyone else would see it
extended
is
holiday.
a long holiday.
Yeah.
So you don't need to know my financial life story
No.
to come on a long holiday.
No.
It's very strange. It's very much like a guilty until proven innocent.
Yeah.
One thing I did want to touch on, unless you have more to say, was an unfortunate life hack for the smoothest travel experience possible just seems to be being disabled.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
Like that.
I'm never gonna say it because I think that like, being you, of course you're disabled, so I think it makes me kind of look like if I'm like, for just travel purposes that I'm like, oh, thank God.
Mm.
But it was so simple to get through the airport. Like, yeah, it was a little bit tough at the beginning because we had tried to put in for assistance when we went to Paris, and the website just wouldn't let us do it. And so when we got to the airport, yeah, we had to stand in line for a while until we actually figured out what we needed to do to get you the assistance. But after
Well,
that, it was smooth sailing.
when we first got to the airport, we tried to do it legitimately first.
Oh yeah, we sat and we
Yeah,
tried to hit the call
we
thing. Yeah.
stood and no, I mean when we got to Manchester Airport,
Oh yeah, we
we
stood in that
walked
line.
all that way to the terminal.
Mhm.
We stood in that line until I felt like my legs were gonna collapse, and then the assistance thing was like right behind us, and
Yeah.
we were like, I can't do this for another like 3 hours.
No.
So we went
No.
over, and then once they actually get you past that initial line, they just walk you through everything. Like, you don't have to worry about where you need to go, where your bags are going. It's like, okay, you go here, go here, go here,
Right.
and yeah.
It
And
was
then even though
so
we
much easier.
hadn't planned it, they actually called ahead from the airplane to tell Paris that there was someone who needed assistance coming.
Yeah.
And they were there immediately. And then did the
I thought that
whole
little
thing,
thing that
but
she
that
stood
was
on to
cool.
like drive you
Yeah,
around was so. I was
it was
like,
like a
I need one
chariot
of
or
those.
something. But yeah,
But it
it
was
was
it was
super
so
smooth.
simple. it sucks for the other people because it's like, oh, you're able-bodied, but we skipped through security. Like we didn't skip it, but we got moved to the front, so we could get through. And then we were at a gate that nobody was there specifically for people who were disabled, so that you could get put in that little box thing that rises you up to the plane.
Yeah.
And then yeah, it was so much smoother than my experience at an airport. Like I love flying now. I
It's
love
not like
traveling.
we didn't get on the plane any faster than anyone else.
Nah, because people are still boarding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like we were probably one of the last people to board, but it really removed the stress of I need to be here at this exact moment. I can't sit down for the next hour because I have to wait at this exact spot. Because if I don't wait at this exact spot, something's gonna go wrong or they're gonna leave without me.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it's being being in an airport with such a little bit of time to get somewhere is so stressful, considering like especially when I have left DFW, so surprisingly DFW security like TSA has been so quick.
mm,
Like my parents go with me to the airport, my sister as well. And then, I'm always extra cautious because I'm like, I want to be at the gate so nothing happens to me, or if anything goes wrong in TSA, I have plenty of time to
yeah.
correct it. So, I'll tell them, 3 hours before my plane leaves, all right, I'm going through TSA. So, you know, but usually I get through TSA within like 15, 20 minutes. And then I'm in the bag. Unless there's something in my bag that I didn't quite realize shouldn't be in there. Like
Yeah.
liquid, whatever. Too much
Or like you forgot
liquid
to
and
take a battery out or
electronic.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's like, they'll make you unpack it. I mean, like, completely. I'm like, why do I even bother to sit and try to pack my carry on really nice and, like, fit when I'm just gonna have to unpack it in TSA anyway?
Just bring a few carrier bags and pack the bag in front of them. So when they say, "Did you pack your own bag?" You watched me do
I didn't even bother. I didn't even bother to pack it at home because I knew I was gonna have to
it.
unpack it here.
Yeah. Yeah.
But eh, I like traveling. I like going to the airport now. It's just like I get so excited to get on an airplane, go somewhere, and then I get on the airplane and I'm like, so much work because it's so tiring, really, to like lug everything around and mm, and I am a control freak and have anxiety problems with my passport.
Yeah.
So I will sit there and check so many times, like countless times. Do I still have my passport? Do I still have my passport? Do I have my passport? And then you'll see me like checking like constantly, and I know it's there, and so that on top of it gives me more anxiety. Where I'm like, okay, I have to take my carry-on, my backpack. I'm gonna check that I have my passport 300 million times, like unpack all my stuff at TSA, and then they make you pack it back in. Like it's ugh. And then fighting with people to get onto the plane because so many people are that like elbow, like and people take their sweet time to get on an airplane. You know, especially like the big ones where it's like 3 seats, 4 seats, 3 seats, and people will
Yeah.
take their sweet time getting on the plane, especially for international flights. I think I've stood more time in the aisles than I did going through TSA because like some 30-year-old is digging for his iPad and headphones and everything out of his carry-on rather
Mm,
than bringing a backpack, standing in the middle of the aisle while we're all still trying to find our seats and there's a line all the way, on the skywalk. Oh my god. Sometimes I just want to like shake, like, you can do that, like get in your seat, let everybody else find their seat, and then do that. Like then do that right before takeoff, right before they're like, all right, everybody, fasten your seatbelts because there's no moving, like until about 40,000 feet. So
See, I
yeah,
definitely get that frustration, but I will never understand the people who feel like they need to board the plane first. You
yes,
are all leaving at the same time.
But it's those people that board the plane first and then
Yeah,
stand in the aisle.
true. Yeah.
And it's like, why are you so excited and like in a rush to get on the plane first and then stand in the aisle and hold everybody up? Like, yeah, you have your group number and everything on your ticket, so when they're like group 1, which is usually first class, and then or group A, whatever, first class, and then group B is business, and then group C to G is all economy. You
Yeah.
know, I always fly premium economy, but it's still the same thing as
Mm.
economy. The only reason it has the
Just
premium in there is
you get a
because of
check bag.
the checked bag.
Yeah.
uh,
And sometimes the like inch of extra legroom
yeah.
if you get the seat that's like by an exit door.
I love the exit door. I thought I would hate it because it is a tiny bit louder.
Mm.
Because the seal, it
Yeah,
is a
it's not
tiny bit louder.
perfect.
But I can put my feet out there and not have to worry about if I'm kicking somebody's butt like under the chair, or I'm reaching under there to grab my backpack. The only downside about sitting by an exit door is that you can have your backpack throughout the flight, right? It's the same
Yeah.
as everybody else. You just put it under the seat. But since we don't have seats, it has to go up in the thing for landing and takeoff.
Yeah.
So, after you've done taken off and you're reaching cruising altitude and they take the seatbelt sign off, then you can go and get your backpack. And then when they're telling we're going to start landing, we're going to start our descent, put your seatbelts on, you need to go and put it, back.
Yeah.
That's the only downside, which is fine. I don't mind getting up from my seat. I'm actually that person that gets up during the flight and likes to walk. And especially if I'm at an exit door, I have a lot of room to walk because there's a bathroom right there. So I can stand up and like stretch my legs and walk and then go to the bathroom if I need to. I've had some pretty cool flight attendants that'll leave the curtain open and they'll
Huh.
sit there and talk to the people that are because I usually do overnight flights.
Yeah.
So most of the time there are a lot of people that sleep and there's just a few of us here and there that just can't sleep on an airplane. And so, they'll talk to the people that are just up wandering around and stuff. So I would stand there, with the flight attendants in their little cupboard area, just having, a drink or whatever. When you're on an airplane, do not drink the coffee. Do not drink the water. That tank is not cleaned.
Mm.
Don't do it.
Yeah,
But
water's always the dangerous one. My only real experience with like a long haul journey where even I felt the need to like get up and stretch my legs was like European holidays
mhm,
when I was a kid because deathly terrified of planes.
right,
Because again, the first plane I went on was with you to France.
right.
Um,
That was so much fun.
but when I went to Spain twice when I was younger, it was like a 24-hour-ish coach journey
Yeah,
because that involved driving from Liverpool to Dover. You've got to board a ferry to go over to Calais, and that's France. So then from France, you've got to drive all the way through France into Spain.
we still haven't taken the ferry. Just the ferry here for like across the River Mersey. We haven't taken a ferry yet.
We
To
were
go to
gonna,
Birkenhead.
but stuff happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was on the plan.
Yeah. So we've got 10 minutes left. So do you think we should do the poll?
Well, a nice segue from what we were talking about would be to talk about the costs, because wasn't that one of the highest voted?
Yeah, that was one of the highest voted on our. I think that was the highest voted. Let's see. So we have 3 votes on the travel costs. Oh, actually, no. What we have faced is the 4 votes.
Which,
What we
okay.
have faced is 4 votes. So
It
we're gonna.
depends whether you want to take a big U-turn or whether you want to touch on that next time and talk
No,
about
we're gonna
travel
we're gonna touch
costs.
it on it because I put it on the poll. So
Okay.
we're gonna touch it on this one. So the travel costs.
Mhm.
So my first ticket was I think that one was 700
Yeah,
because we were in the off season. So that was like $750.
because there wasn't an
Or no,
insane.
700. Sorry, it was 750 pounds,
Yeah,
which translates to like $915 or
but
whatever.
basically, because there wasn't an insane rush,
Yeah.
we almost planned the date around costs.
Yeah.
As opposed to when you returned at Christmas.
Oh my god.
Yeah,
We could have waited 2 days. I wanted to be home for Christmas, but we could have waited 2 days and we would have saved
I didn't
a
want to wait.
lot of money.
I know, but
But So that was about $915, about 750 pounds. And then when I made the original ticket for September because we were only going to do 4 months for the first trip.
Yeah.
We changed it to November. That cost me an extra $50.
Mhm.
So, the Christmas trip, that was $1,800.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that was a Christmas Eve flight. 1,800, that was painful. Like,
That wasn't one way though. That was the
that was
return.
two ways.
It was a return. Yeah.
Yeah. And then we had to change it again because I was going to come home in May, or I was
But
going to
then
get back to Texas in
the
May,
priority opened.
but the priority visa opened, so we changed it for me to come home in March or go to Texas. I always say home. I have two homes.
Hmm.
Um, but for me to go back to Texas in March, and
Right before my birthday, I might add.
I went the day before your birthday. I
Uh-huh.
texted you from the plane to tell you happy birthday,
Uh-huh.
which was so crappy. I felt
Hmm.
so bad, but I was like, we can sacrifice one more birthday. One more birthday is fine. And that didn't cost me anything. So
Yeah.
thanks British Airways for being the real MVP and American Airlines because they did that.
They weren't at the time
They
though.
weren't, but
Yeah.
after
While we reached the good, like a good resolution in the end, the amount of time it took to get there
yeah,
was a nightmare.
after I turned into a Karen,
Yeah.
and but I talked like the last girl finally got it, and she realized
Yeah.
where it all went wrong. She was super nice, and yeah, she was a real MVP. Like she should be promoted. She was great.
I think
Um,
just one very brief aside, I did want to touch on the fact that because when we looked at me visiting the US, you know, you want to visit the US, you don't have to have a visa, but then you've got to file a visa waiver to tell the US
yeah,
government why you don't need a visa. You still need to meet the COVID test requirements and blah 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 blah. You want to come to the UK, you just come to the UK.
yeah. You just come to
Yeah,
the
as
yeah.
long as you're only coming for 180
UK has a
days,
big heart. And they're
you
just
just
like, yeah,
come
sure.
to the UK. The only reason we filed the visitor visa for you to come back at Christmas, we probably could have got away with it, but we were concerned that when you came back on the marriage, they would look at how much time you'd spent in the UK.
Yeah,
So the visitor visa wasn't that we actually needed the visa, it was almost just to make sure it was okay for you to come back that soon.
right.
Because if they'd have said no, we'd have been like, okay, we pushed our luck. But
Yeah,
the fact that they said yes to that was like, okay, so
right.
we're not going to run into issues when we go for the next one. And it's not going to look like you've tried to stay in the UK long term without a visa
Right.
because you only had one visit without one,
Yeah.
basically. But yeah, if you just want to come to the UK on holiday, you just
Come
come to
over.
the
It's
UK.
fine.
Yeah.
But and then okay, so we had the Christmas Eve one, and then when I came home or went home in March, it didn't cost me anything extra. Um,
Well, that was still part of the 1800s.
yeah, that was still part of the 1800. And then on this one, I'm trying to think. I think it was $1,100,
Mm,
and my mom and sister helped me out with that.
yeah,
So they're the real MVP too.
because we were very broke.
Yeah, and then visa costs, the visitor visa, I think that was
It's quite cheap, wasn't it?
I think it was like $150. I think
Yeah.
that's what it was. But the fiance visa was 1,800, I think.
But part of that was priority.
Yeah, part of it was priority,
Yeah.
yeah, because we paid extra for it because I wanted to be here. Um, so yeah, and then the next phase of it is that we get married on August 31st, and then
Hmm.
that next cost will be about £2,600,
Yeah, because you got to pay
and
for
filling
the
it in my chest a little bit.
yeah. What do they specifically call it again? The NHS surcharge.
The NHS surcharge,
Yeah.
yeah. Because I still get basic health care here. I can go see a GP. I can go see specialists for life-threatening issues. but I can't like have surgery, be hospitalized. I can go to A&E, ER, you know. But anything beyond that, no.
Yeah.
So,
And that's not just this visa though as well. Any visitor, if you're on holiday in the UK and you have a horrible accident, you break a bone, you've got to go to A&E. They need to do x-rays, scans, make sure there's no splinters of bone, seeing a doctor, then getting it casted and everything. You don't pay a penny.
yeah. And we only have 4 minutes, so what have we faced? Oh my god.
Mm,
I think the biggest thing that I have faced with this is that I knew that I was going to miss my mom and dad and my
yeah.
sister, but I didn't know I was going to miss them this much. I miss them so much, and I'm so ready for them to come and visit. Like, I talk to my mom every single day about what I want to do with the house when they come to visit because, we live in a tiny apartment. And my mom's always like, oh, well, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. And I'm just like, I've already built the bridge. It's a little bit
Yeah.
bigger than it's to be. And it's just because I'm so
It's
ready
like
for them to come visit.
it's a good excited.
Yeah.
It's not like stressing. It's
Oh
like
my god, you should see me in the airport. I I've seen my mom cry before. I haven't really seen my dad cry.
Mm. Are
That
you really out on on a live
I'm
stream?
gonna out my dad because I love him and he loves me and I know that. And but I don't think I've ever seen my dad cry except for at my cousin's funeral. And my dad cried in the airport and it hit me hard. And I was like, my dad? Like, and then of course my mom cried. My mom cried the first time I went to the airport. She didn't really cry the second time. If she did, she didn't tell me. But yeah, my sister cried, and it hit me so hard. I just sat in the gate, and I'm pretty sure I had people looking at me like I was a crazy person, cause I was just like, like, and I was like, oh no, am I making the right choice? But I did it, and I still miss them every day. It's great to be able to pick up the phone and call them, when I want to. But yeah, I just get so excited,
Yeah.
like knowing that they're gonna come visit. My mom just got her passport, and I'm pretty sure my dad probably got his too by now because they had already sent it out. But yeah, so
That's not what we have faced. That's what you faced.
oh
If we're talking about that, what I faced was letting you go in November and returning at the time to an empty like a big 2 bedroom house
yeah,
by myself.
that was really hard.
That was really like surreal for me coming back because again traveling back from Manchester to Liverpool on the bus, and the guy at the bus station was the same guy that dropped us off and said, "Oh, that was quick, wasn't it?" And I said, "Well, you might have noticed, like I'm on my own. I had to send my fiance back to America, and then that whole bus journey with the dramas of the bus break, like the fast bus not working and breaking down, and then waiting for the taxi in Liverpool to get back to our house that was in Anfield,
Yeah,
and then going through that front door and closing it, and it was just silence.
yeah, it
And that was a
that was
big
so
house,
hard.
so like, yeah,
But it was so hard for me too. Like when we were standing at the airport, we had people walking by us, and they were all so happy because they were all going on holiday or they were all going to see family, and we're sitting on the side, like, like
yeah,
dying. And yeah, it was so hard getting in the line and just being like, I can do this. I can do this. Like it's fine. I'm gonna go home. I'm gonna see my parents. I'm gonna see my sister. I'm gonna see all the dogs, and everything is gonna be fine. And I will be back before the end of the year. And that was such a time crunch that we put ourselves on, but it was like the only thing that I could do to be like, I have to get in the line.
see, I felt the raw emotion in the moment,
Yeah.
but I had the very like settling in
Well, you'd
moment
never been on
of
your own before,
yeah.
so.
Well, I'd been on my home in like the family home
But
for
it was a
like
family home.
a week or two at a time.
Yeah.
But going back to like again, we didn't have any pets at the time, so going back to a completely empty house that we had only been living in for about 2.5 months.
Yeah.
And that was cold.
Yeah.
So, like,
Yeah. I get it.
blanket hoodie every day.
It's the first snow day I missed.
Yeah.
So, but I think really the only other thing that we have faced besides distance and just having to make it work is all the family drama. So, we're not going to get into that, but I
Yeah.
feel like I feel like that was our biggest thing to like test it out, like test the relationship because I got here with such a high hope and it was shot down really quickly with all of that drama.
Yeah.
My very first time being here was like it was great, but it was stressful.
Mhm.
So, you know, we're not gonna get into the all statistics of it, but I think that was
Yeah.
like the biggest thing that we faced was trying to
It was rough.
navigate through that and
Yeah.
figure out what was best for us to do, and now what was best for Charlie. Even though he's just a dog, to some people, but dogs attach themselves to people and they pick up on situations, and it wasn't a good environment for him. It
Yeah.
wasn't a good environment for me. It was testing my mental health, and yeah.
Charlie's been a lot happier here.
He has been a lot. Yeah, he's still a rambunctious little puppy, but
I think he'll always be a psycho.
yeah,
At least for a few years.
Yeah.
But the thing is, if he wasn't such a psycho, then in a few years he'd be a super boring dog.
right. Well, that's 102.
Hey, we slightly over.
Well, technically in America it's 7:02 at Central Time and 8:02. Yeah, because there's 6 hours. 7:02.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, 6 hours, and then Eastern is 5, so it's 8:03. So that's our story, and it's just sitting here talking for a while, you guys. We went a little bit over time, but
Yeah.
that was great. It was a good first podcast, I
It's
think.
actually nice. The time kind of flew.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
pretty quick. So we're gonna do the same thing next week. We're gonna be back on Friday at 6 p.m. Central and 7 p.m. I think it's 7 p.m. Eastern.
I don't know.
I think 7. Yeah, because 7 p.m.
Midnight
is a
UK time.
yeah.
You can
So I
just
keep putting
go
5.
to Google.
I keep putting 5, and I'm like, it's not 5, it's 7. So 6 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Eastern,
Well,
and
you just
then
go to Google
and then
s-
midnight on
and
BST.
put like London time now.
Yeah.
Or better yet, we have got it set up on Twitch where you can go to the page and click schedule and it will tell you when our next
Yeah.
stream is.
Right.
And if you follow us, when you follow us, it says next stream,
Next stream on
X
that day.
time.
But
set
also
reminder.
remember, if you have Amazon Prime, you can subscribe to us for free too.
That would be nice.
Yeah.
But-
Yeah, you can subscribe
Yeah.
to us for free. You get 1 free subscriber on Twitch. But yeah. So
Yeah.
we're gonna be back next Friday. We're gonna put up another poll and everything so we can figure out what you guys want to talk about. I'm pretty sure that we'll come up with a couple of topics too. So, but other than that, yeah. We'll see you all next time. Thanks for joining us.
Bye, guys.
Bye.